back for our last episode on microbiome who and what, and now we're going to talk about why is my gut not getting better, even though I've done all the things you've said in the previous videos. I'm not getting better, I'm stuck. We're going to help you figure out some of those reasons. Now, there's numerous reasons we could talk for hours, but we're going to talk about the big ones, most common ones, and those would be, I'm going to break them down into 5 categories. There's nutrition problems, there's digestion problems, there's an ongoing exposure problem, there's time, just patience, and then there's inflammatory bowel disease. Those patients are more difficult to heal. So, Paige, you start us off. Why is my gut not getting better if my nutrition is not optimized? What are some of the pitfalls we see?
Yeah, so again, it might sound simple, but it is very straightforward. So we're eating too much sugar. Sugar is inflammatory, as we've said in our previous videos.
And delicious.
So, and it's so good. But
not for you. It's good to taste.
Okay.
Bad for you.
But when we do think about, okay, I'm not getting better. Well, really think about it. How much sugar are you eating? We might think, oh yeah, I definitely have lowered my sugar content. But when you start adding it up through the day, it really does.
And sometimes there might be a family member in the house that can eat more sugar and be fine, and you can't. So everyone's a bio-individual. You might not be able to. I'm very sensitive to sugar and carbs, and someone next to me can eat way more and be fine, and I will pay the price. So you have to meet yourself as an individual.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know.
Yeah. So other things would be not enough color. We talked about that. It also sounds super elementary, but it's really true. If we're not eating enough colors, that means we're not getting enough micronutrients or diversity of micronutrients. And that drives our healing and detox and everything. Not enough fiber, so same kind of concept. Fiber is going to kind of bulk, get things out. Not macro balancing. This is huge.
I'd say that's a big pitfall. People can recognize sugar pretty easily. They may not be easy to give up, but macro balancing is kind of a new concept for people to really consider.
I agree. And it's kind of, I don't know, a little nerve-wracking just thinking about it. What does that mean? What is a protein? What is a fat? And so we really do dive into what that means and how to pair foods together to keep your blood sugar balanced through the day.
If you're going to eat the banana, eat some almonds too. Don't do the banana by itself. Bananas are healthy. They're a sugary food, a sugary fruit, but if you pair it with a fat and protein, it dramatically changes your hormone response to it.
Which is super cool, by the way. Other things like cross-contamination we don't think about. So we know that we removed gluten in the beginning, but other things that might cross that would be like oats, for example. Oats are naturally gluten-free, but they're usually made in a facility where that cross-contamination can kind of come through. And then alcohol. Let's be real here. So how much are we drinking? That goes through the liver. Our body is going to be focusing on detoxing that out instead of all the other things because it is a toxin. And then
I told y'all my joke on how to get diagnosed as an alcoholic.
No.
You have to drink one more drink than your doctor does.
Interesting. The truth comes out.
Exactly. So as long as you're under me, everything's fine. Yeah,
okay, so are you going to let us know what
there's no...
Okay.
It's a guessing game.
Anyway. But last but not least would be other food sensitivities. Okay, so maybe there is something that you're eating on a continued basis that's just poking the bear. And so we'll definitely dive into that as well.
Yep. So, Cerise, why is my gut not getting better on the digestive front?
So there are so many things that can go wrong in digestion. One of the things we see frequently is low stomach acid, otherwise known as hypochlorhydria.
What a fancy word, hypochlorhydria. We sound smart.
We do sound smart.
I like that.
It's got a
Say
lot
it
of syllables.
Syllable.
Yeah, so low stomach acid means we can't digest our food properly. We can't break it down to how it needs to be broken down and get the acid to do its job. And so a lot of the times that can cause A huge issue in our digestion. Insufficient enzymes is another issue. Enzymes can't get activated, or we just don't have enough when we're not digesting well. We have poor bile flow, and that could come from a lot of things. But if you've had your gallbladder removed, that really
That affects it.
yeah, it affects your your bile flow. It just trickles instead of gets a good healthy squeeze to get all of the bile moving through the digestive system. And then last but not least is fecal retention. So
Yummy.
we're not able to completely empty the bowels. And that's a huge problem that we see as well. A lot of people think they don't have constipation, but they're also not considering the fact that maybe they're not emptying completely as well.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So I've got a picture. I mean, not many people know what x-rays look like, but suffice it to say, this is a terrible x-ray with lots of retained stool throughout the abdomen, dilated loops of bowel from the gas back up and stuff. And so this patient is probably feeling it, but we frequently have patients that do poop every day, but they are still constipated. I think back to the digestive part, one of the things when I first started getting into functional medicine and playing with people's digestion more, I was completely surprised when I started replacing people's stomach acid, and their response was, I pooped every day when you gave me stomach acid. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Makes total sense though. If you start the train keeps moving downstream, right?
Yeah.
So if you're constipated, too many times in medicine we focus on the problem. Oh, your ankle hurts, let's focus on your ankle. How about we talk about why you're hurting your ankle instead of why the ankle hurts, right? So focusing on the root cause of why you're constipated is a reason why your gut may not be getting better. If you're focused on constipation and just treating that and not the underlying cause, you're not going to get better. Okay? What is some ongoing exposures, Paige, that would make people not get better? This is common, unfortunately.
Yeah. So living in mold, holy cow.
Yeah.
We've seen it. I don't know if it, anyway, you should definitely
Numerous
get your house
times.
checked.
Yeah.
If you had a water leak, you should get your house checked.
Yeah. It's silent, has no smell, and frequently can't be seen because the paint's on top of the wood. You don't see the mold. If you see the mold, you know you have a big, big problem.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'd say 90% of our people that have ongoing exposure don't even know they're living in it until they test.
Wasn't there one patient where they couldn't find it and they just kept looking and they ended up looking under their...
This is actually
Was that it?
This is the story. Yeah, I love this photo.
Oh my
It was a longtime patient of mine that was not getting better, and she was one of those people that ate pristinely and did everything. We later finally did a mold test, even though we had really not much to go off of, and our mold test was strikingly positive. And so they hired a mold inspector, came in, said there's no mold in the home, hired another mold inspector, came in, and oh, by the way, they already had an ERMI test knowing there was mold in the home. So they hired a mold inspector to try to find it. The first one missed it. Second one couldn't find it either. And as he was walking out, they asked him, if this were your family, what would you do? Gonna bring me to tears.
Oh.
That's scary.
Yeah.
But so they just started cutting open their water. And so this picture is of the cabinet of the third bathroom they cut open.
Oh,
That's bold. You cut up a bathroom, found nothing.
Yeah.
You cut up a second bathroom, found nothing. And in the third bathroom, this was the guest bathroom, they cut it open. And what I love about this picture is you can see the mold on the wood, and there's it after they've taken it out. But what's amazing about this picture is if you look in the background, there's no mold visible on the surface. You cannot see it. And lo and behold, they realized they had a water leak years before that they dried up no problem, but the mold was already grown underneath. And that's why this section, it's actually flipped upside down. The mold is on the bottom side of it because the water went through that, saturated the floor, and that plywood kind of soaked it up, or particle board, whatever that's called. So ongoing exposures are a common reason for people to not get better. The most common reason is living in mold. Well, I've got chemical exposure, heavy metal exposure, but I mean, if you're drinking Roundup and dipping your hands in mercury, that's less of a hazard around our practice. So usually if you have an ongoing exposure, it's because you're living in mold and don't know it. But stress is listed specifically on here. That's an ongoing exposure that you can control, or hopefully you can control and reduce. If you're not getting better, it could be because you're chronically stressed.
it is a toxin.
Mm-hmm.
So this slide's pretty easy. Why is my gut not getting better? You're just not patient enough. It takes time. You didn't get here overnight. You're not going to get better overnight. We have a saying in functional medicine that generally however many years you've been sick is how many months it'll take to get better. So if you're sick for 20 years, you can imagine that'll take 20 months to get better. Frequently with supplements and our unique treatment, we have people better a lot sooner than that, but that just tells you got to be patient. Why is my gut not getting better if I have inflammatory bowel disease?
Yes.
Just yes.
Yes,
Yep.
that's why.
the
That's
answer.
exactly why. So, inflammatory bowel disease, it can come in many different ways. Celiac, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, microscopic colitis, all of the colitises. But there's so many little intricacies to what could be inflaming the bowel, and we have different ways of looking at all of it, but there could be that underlying cause. Some things are genetic and some things are definitely helped with nutrition and supplementation and protocols. So we'll figure out where we are on it and help you get there.
And the hard part with inflammatory bowel disease is the very thing that you need to heal is also your source for your nutrition.
Yes.
It's a catch-22. You need nutrition to heal. You need nutrients to heal, but you need your bowels to absorb those nutrients, but your bowels are literally on fire, so you don't get the nutrients, so then your bowels continue to be on fire, and it's just a cycle. So the point of this diagram, though, is that many people have inflammatory bowel disease, just kind of subclinical, low levels of it and don't know it, and if you're not treating inflammation, you'll never get better. So the idea here is that here's a painter trying to paint a house on fire, and you can take the best supplements in the world, but if the house is on fire, there's no reason to paint it, right? So decrease the fire first before trying to go further. So that concludes our visits. Of course, we had this presentation was based on a community event we had in July, and now we're deciding to record it for everyone. We are sending them a 10% off coupon and stuff, which is why you see here. But just as a reminder, we have a gut restoration course. We have nutrition courses online. So don't feel like you have to come see us as a practice. You can go online, learn all about the secrets, tricks, and tips that we have to heal your gut all on your own. And that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this and enjoyed the nutritionist giving some extra information. Thanks, guys. See you next time.